Hi everybody, it's Richard here again and welcome to another video. I've decided to carry on with this series of my top 10, 15, 20, 30 albums from the years 1965 up to 1989, but not in chronological order. So I put 3 years out on my community tab: 1980, 81 and 85, and 1981. Not 1981, 1980 was victorious. So I'm not actually going to do 1980, and the reason being is that my friend Ross Goodall, he put up a video last week of his top 33 albums from 1980. A lot of mine are the same, so I will direct you towards Ross's video. It's very good, but I will be doing it at some stage. So I thought, right, I'll do the second choice, which I automatically assumed was 1981, but it wasn't. It was the top 15 of 1985, so that's what I'm going to do today. And like every other year, I'm going to give 3 bubbling unders, and those 3 are Bryan Ferry, his Boys and Girls album, which has fantastic Slave to Love on it, a very good Windswept, and Don't Stop the Dance, and Sensation, which is also a very good song. Simple Minds, Once Upon a Time, with All the Things She Said, Alive and Kicking, Sanctify Yourself, Ghost Dancing. Very good album, a little bit stadium rocky for me, but it's still a good album. And Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Southern Accents, with Don't Come Around Here No More, and Rebels, and Dogs on the Run, and the title track, which I don't actually like, but it's still not a bad album. So 1985 is not one of the best years for me. That's why it's only a top 15, but there are some really good albums, so let's get started. At number 15, I am going to give it to Dire Straits' Brothers in Arms, which was probably the best selling album of that year and the best selling CD of that year. I like this, but I'm a little bit fed up with it. Now, I always thought this was half a good album, because side 1 was good with So Far Away, Money for Nothing, Walk of Life. Even though things like Your Latest Trick were a bit soppy. Side 2 I thought was not great at all until you got to the final track, Brothers in Arms. It's decent, but it's nowhere near my favourite Dire Straits album, and it just sneaks in at number 15. At number 14, and it's John Fogerty and Centerfield, and this is his, well, it's really his 3rd solo album, but it was his first since the self-titled album in 1975, so it's a full 10 years. This is actually really good, although it starts off with the bluesy The Old Man Down the Road, which I've never liked, but then it goes into Rock and Roll Girls, which is excellent, as is Big Train from Memphis, and also really like Centerfield and I Can't Help Myself. I saw it on the TV, it's very good as well. It's a very catchy album. His next one wasn't so catchy, Eye of the Zombie, but this is a good album. I think this is very successful for him in the States. So John Fogerty is my number 14 with Centerfield. Now at number 13, and you could almost call this Hot Space Volume 2, and it's the Freddie Mercury solo album Mr. Bad Guy, which I think is really good. There's a lot of dancey type music on this from that time. It starts off with Let's Turn It On, which I think is really great track. The big hit off this was I Was Born to Love You, which is a little bit reminiscent of I Want to Break Free, especially with the instrumental break in the middle. Living on My Own was a #1 hit, but 2 years after he died in 1993. It did nothing when it was first released as a single in 1985, and the title track is very good as well. And there's a Made in Heaven was obviously re-recorded by Queen for their Made in Heaven album. Also I Was Born to Love You was re-recorded. I really do like this. It is very hot spacey, it is very nightclubby, but I think it's a very good album, and I think it's my number 13. Number 12, and it's Talking Heads, Little Creatures, and this is probably their most commercial album to date at that time. I think True Stories, the one after this, is even more commercial, but this has the 2 fantastic singles, Road to Nowhere and She Was. Other really good songs, I really do like Creatures of Love, I think it's fantastic, and I like Stay Up Late. The only one I really don't like off this at all is Television Man, which I think is very poor. I don't think this matches the albums before it, but it's still a decent listen and it is quite poppy. And I guess my number 12. Now number 11, before I made this list I thought I would have it higher. In fact, there's a couple of albums I thought I would have higher, but this one's dropped a little bit for me. And it's the Style Council, Our Favourite Shop. Now I have never been a huge fan of this, although I really do love some of the songs off it. The single Walls Come Tumbling Down is magnificent, always loved it, and the track A Man of Great Promise is absolutely fantastic as well. I do like Come to Milton Keynes, although it was a poor choice of a single, but I really like the song, it's very catchy. The other good songs are Luck, which I think is very good, All Gone Away, which I think is good, but there's tracks off here I think are extremely boring, like Homebreakers is the opener and I just don't get it at all, nor do I get Boy Who Cried Wolf. I just thought it was poor, and I think it might have been a single elsewhere in the world. Internationalist is just crap, and the one with the stand-up comic Instructions, oh, it's dreadful. But it's half a decent album, and I really do like the songs that I like, so it gets my number 11. At number 10, if you asked me in 1985, this would never get anywhere near my top 10, and it's Squeeze, and it's Cozy Fan Tutti Frutti, and this is very dated in production. It's produced by Laurie Latham, but I think the songs on this are really good. The single Last Time Forever was a poor choice, but I think it was only released to highlight that Jools Holland had rejoined the band, because there's a huge big sort of piano intro to it to say here Jools is back. But it's an okay song. The track No Place Like Home is one of the best singles ever released. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Even Jools' song Heartbreaking World is pretty good. Big Ben, which is the opener to side one, I think is an excellent opener. Again, it is dated, but this sound has really sort of grown on me. I really do like it, and some of their albums, like for example the next one, which maybe isn't as dated as this, I find more dated. But King George Street is the most Squeeze-like of all the Squeeze songs on this, and it is really good. Another problem I have with this is Glenn Tilbrook's hair. His hair was far too long and he looks stupid, but it is a good album, but it gets my number 10. Number 9, and I would have had this higher, I'd probably had this number 1 a couple of years ago, but I played it again and it just doesn't do it for me as much as it did, and it is Dexys Midnight Runners, Don't Stand Me Down. And this is the follow up to Too-Rye-Ay, and this was such a major disappointment for the fans. It's only got 7 songs on it, and there's loads of speaking going through it. It is quite soulful, but the songs are so elongated. The occasional flicker I think is quite good, but again you have to get through it. The best way to listen to this is just lying on the sofa and then play. This Is What She's Like I think is really good, as is One of Those Things. I like it, but whenever I was replaying this I just wasn't in the mood for it, so it has fallen down quite a bit for me. So it's Dexys Midnight Runners, Don't Stand Me Down at number 9. At number 8, and this was a disappointment whenever I first bought it, but this album has grown so much on me. That's Lloyd Cole and the Commotions and Easy Pieces, and I rate this as highly as Rattlesnakes now. The singles off it are great. You've got Brand New Friend, which I've always loved, and Lost Weekend, which is as catchy as hell. Cut Me Down, which is a very sort of a slow type song, but it's a really good single. And the track Rich, the opener, I think is magnificent and my all-time favourite Lloyd Cole song. But you get other really good songs like Pretty Gone and Grace, Perfect Blue, and Why I Love Country Music. It is a grower. The songs are not quite as melodic as on Rattlesnakes, but once they do sink in, you know, they stay, and that gets my number 8. Number 7, and it's from OMD, and it's Crush, and this is their poppiest album to date at that time. It's slightly less electronic, pure pop, but some of these songs are magnificent. The 2 singles, well there's actually 3. First one, So In Love, I've always loved, absolutely loved it. and then Secret is another great one with Paul Humphries on vocals. La Femme Accident is slightly more like the old OMD, the third single, and I think it's great as well. But you also get stuff like Crush. Crush is a brilliant track, and around this time this was the song that they were opening their concerts with, and it was so effective. It's very, very slow, and you usually expect a concert to start with a bang. OMD were different. They started off slow, and by the end you were bopping. But Crush is a great track. Hold You is a beautiful song, could have been a single. Women 3 is very good as well, and Block Block Block, very strong album. It is their poppiest, and it gets my number 7. Number 6, and most people would probably have this at number 1, and I have Kate Bush, The Hounds of Love. And yes, I do like this album, but it's not my favourite. I struggle a little bit with The Ninth Wave. I think a lot of it is good, but not everything. My favourite part of it is Hello Earth. I think is excellent, even though it was nicked from the 1979 version of Nosferatu with Klaus Kinski in it. I think that was the actor. It's just lifted directly in the music. Yes, the first side, however, the 4 singles, Running Up the Hill, which made a huge impact last year, it's been overplayed for me. Hounds of Love I really like. I love Cloud Busting, it's the best track off this, and I really do like The Big Sky. And incidentally, if you buy the new vinyl reissue of this, you don't get the original Big Sky on it, you get the 7-inch version. So this is an original album with the true LP version. It's a very strong album, but it's never been my favourite. I've always preferred The Dreaming and The Red Shoes over it, but still it gets my number 6. And number 5, and you may smile, but it is Slade and it is Rogues Gallery, and this is again their most 80s sounding album. It's probably their most commercial in the 80s, and I think this is brilliant. I really do. The big hit single off this, it got to number 15, was All Join Hands, and it's almost like a carbon copy of My Oh My. But side 1 starts off with Hey Ho Wish You Well, which has got a bit of a big country influence. Little Sheila sounds exactly like Jump by Van Halen, and I used to think, oh my god, these guys copied them, but they didn't, because Little Sheila was written and recorded by the Dummies, Jim Lee's side band in 1980, same arrangement. So if anybody copied, it was actually Van Halen. Harmony is brilliant. Mysterious Mr. Jones is one of their best ever singles. And then you just get really catchy stuff like I'll Be There, Time to Rock. Yes, it's a bit silly, but it is really good fun. And Walking on Water, Running on Alcohol is fantastic as well. I love this album. I love all the Slade albums. And it gets my number 5. So that was one of Slade's later albums, and we go to a debut album now, and number 4 is the Fine Young Cannibals self-titled album, and this is the one with fantastic Johnny Come Home on it, which I absolutely love. And Blue is another brilliant single as well, and they do a fantastic version of Elvis's Suspicious Minds. And another single off this was Funny How Love Is, which is great, but the LP tracks are really good as well, like On a Promise, Move to Work, Time Isn't Kind, Like a Stranger. They only did 2 albums, this and They're on the Coop, and they're both really strong albums. And it does have a little bit of a groove sound to it. Well, one of the guys, or maybe 2 of them, came from the beat, and then Roland Gift's voice, I think it's just unique, and I just love the Fine Young Cannibals, and that gets my number 4. Number 3, and another, you may smile again, is Adamant and Vive la Rock. Now this is the album produced by Tony Visconti. There was one hit single off it, Apollo 9, and a very minor hit, the title track. But this is his rockiest and his punkiest since the very, very early days. But it is really, really catchy. Like things like Hell's 8 Acres is fantastic. POE, oh my god, it is one of the catchiest things he's ever done. Miss Thing is another great one. Scorpio Rising, slightly slower, absolutely brilliant. And as I say, a Tony Visconti produced album, and it is a bit glammy actually. So I guess my number 3. And number 2, and if you asked me in 1985, this would have been number 1, but it is number 2, and it's the Smiths, Meat is Murder, and the only thing that holds this back is the title track, which I've never liked. because I am not a vegetarian, but I just don't like it. Headmaster Ritual going into Russian Muffins, brilliant. I want the one I can't have, very Smiths-like. What She Said, maybe one of the weaker tracks off this, and That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore is magnificent, although it should never have been a single. Nowhere Fast, really catchy, really hooky guitar work by Johnny Marr, brilliant, could have been a hit single. Well I Wonder is beautiful acoustic number, and then the groovy Barbarism Begins at Home. That to me would have been a big hit single, although it would have had to been edited. I don't think it was a single in some other territories. But yeah, it's a fine album. It's actually produced by the Smiths themselves and engineered by Stephen Street, but it's a really strong album, and it's their only #1 album. So the Smiths Meet His Murder is my number 2. Which means my favourite album from 1985, can you guess? And it's Nick Lowe, The Rose of England. And this is his second album with the cowboy outfit. This is pop music at perfection, it really is. Darling Angel Eyes with that keyboard is so catchy. She Don't Love Nobody, I think, is a John Hyatt song, which is really good. Seven Nights to Rock is a sort of rockabilly type song, which is fantastic. Long Walk Back is instrumental, then the title track, which is fantastic. It was then covered by Graham Parker. Lucky Dog, catchy. He does a new version of I Knew the Bride When She Used to Rock and Roll, which is great. And then he does Indoor Fireworks. Now this is 1985. Indoor Fireworks is an Elvis Costello song. So he actually recorded it before Elvis, because it got on to his 1986 album from the Costello Show, which is King of America. Hope to God I'm Right. Again, it's very melodic with a slight Christmassy feel about it. I Can Be the One You Love is a beautiful song, and then you get Everyone and Bobo Skedaddle, which is very good. Love Nick Lowe in the 80s, 70s, 90s, 2000s, and this is my #1 album from 1985. Okay, so that's my rundown on my top 15. I hope you enjoyed that. I will put another 3 years up on my community tab, and you can vote on what I do next. I won't include 1980. I'm going to leave a link, as I say, to Ross's video. Please check that out, it's very good. But I promise I will go with the winner next time. Okay, that's me for now. Hope you enjoyed that. All the best now. Bye bye.